New original story. Title: The Silence Thief. Part 1. The Soundless Tower. The elevator to the 87th floor made no sound. Dr. Marcus Vale stood in the glass capsule, watching the city of Neo-Seattle shrink beneath him, and heard absolutely nothing. No mechanicelum. No cable whisper. Just the violent thud of his own heartbeat, which felt obscenely loud in the vacuum. The elevator wasn't broken. It was designed this way. Everything in the Ashford Tower was soundless. The carpets absorbed footsteps. The ventilation system moved air without a whisper. Even the windows were triple-paned to block the chaos of the city below. It was an architectural monument to silence, and it was slowly killing its owner. Marcus clutched his worn leather medical bag tighter. Inside were tools that seemed ridiculous for this job. A stethoscope, a penlight, outdated sedatives that hospitals didn't use anymore. He was a washed-up ER doctor who'd lost his license after a patient died on his watch. Now he took cash jobs from desperate people who couldn't afford questions. The elevator doors opened without a sound. Standing in the hallway was a woman who looked like she'd been carved from ice. Platinum hair pulled back so tight it could cut glass. A suit that cost more than Marcus's annual rent. Eyes that held the warmth of a surgical blade. "Dr. Vale," she said. Her voice was clipped, precise. "I'm Victoria Chun, head of estate operations. Follow me. Don't speak unless asked a direct question." Marcus followed her down a corridor lined with abstract art that probably cost millions. Everything was white. The walls, the floor, the ceiling. It felt like walking through a cloud, or a hospital, or a mausoleum. The job listing said pediatric experience preferred, Marcus said, breaking her rule immediately. "I don't." "You have experience with trauma," Victoria interrupted, not looking back. "That's close enough." They reached a set of double doors. Victoria stopped, her hand on the handle. For the first time, her mask cracked slightly. "Mr. Ashford is unusual," she said. "His daughter, Sienna, is 7 years old. She hasn't spoken in 3 months. She hasn't made a single sound. No crying, no laughing, nothing." "Selective mutism?" Marcus asked. "Psychological trauma?" "We've had 12 specialists diagnose her," Victoria said. "Psychologists, psychiatrists, neurologists. They all say the same thing. There's nothing physically wrong. It's grief. Her mother died in a car accident. Sienna was in the back seat. She saw everything." Marcus felt his stomach turn. "And the father?" Victoria's expression went completely blank. "Mr. Ashford is dealing with it in his own way." She opened the doors. The apartment beyond was enormous, but it felt like a sensory deprivation chamber. White walls, white furniture, not a single photograph, not a single personal item, just expensive emptiness. In the center of the living room, sitting in a chair that looked like a throne, was Julian Ashford. Marcus had seen photos in business magazines. Tech billionaire, youngest CEO to take a company public in history. The media called him the Sound King because his company, Resonance Corp, developed audio technology, noise-canceling systems, hearing aids, cochlear implants that had changed millions of lives. In person, he looked like a man carved from stone. Julian was maybe 35, with dark hair that fell perfectly across his forehead, sharp cheekbones, and eyes that were an unsettling shade of gray. He wore all black. Black turtleneck, black slacks, black shoes. He didn't stand when Marcus entered. He didn't even blink. "You're late," Julian said. His voice was soft, controlled, but it had an edge like broken glass. "Traffic," Marcus lied. "Liars waste my time," Julian said. "You were late because you stopped at a liquor store for vodka. You're currently drunk. I can smell it." Marcus froze. He'd had 2 shots in the parking garage to steady his nerves. He thought mints would cover it. "I need someone competent, not someone drowning their failures," Julian continued. "But you're the 13th doctor I've hired in 3 months, and you're the only one who didn't immediately suggest pharmaceuticals. So you get one chance." "Where's your daughter?" Marcus asked. Julian gestured to a corner of the room. Marcus's heart sank. Sienna Ashford was sitting inside a clear acrylic cube. It was maybe 8 feet by 8 feet, and it was completely soundproof. Marcus could see her through the transparent walls. A small girl with dark curls, wearing headphones that looked like they cost more than a car. She was drawing on an iPad with a stylus, her face completely expressionless. "What the hell is this?" Marcus said. "A solution," Julian replied coldly. "The world is too loud for her." After the accident, she started having episodes. Panic attacks triggered by sound. A door slamming, a car horn, someone laughing too loudly. She would scream until she passed out. "So I built her a space where nothing could hurt her." "You put your daughter in a box," Marcus said, his voice rising. "I protected my daughter," Julian snapped, standing up for the first time. He was tall, probably 6'3", and when he moved, there was coiled tension in every muscle. "Do you have children, Dr. Vale?"
No.
"Then don't presume to judge me." Marcus walked closer to the cube. Sienna looked up. Their eyes met. Hers were the same unsettling gray as her father's. And they were completely empty. "When was the last time she ate?" Marcus asked. Julian didn't answer. "Mr. Ashford, when was the last time your daughter ate food?" "She has 4 nutrition," Julian said. "She refuses solid food. She won't even touch it." Marcus pressed his hand against the acrylic. "Let me in."
No.
"If you want me to help her, I need to be in the same room." Julian's jaw tightened. Then, slowly, he walked to a control panel on the wall. He pressed a button, and a section of the cube slid open with a whisper of hydraulics. Marcus stepped inside. The silence was immediate and absolute. His ears popped from the pressure change. It was like being underwater. Sienna didn't look at him. She kept drawing. On the iPad screen was a picture of a woman with long dark hair, smiling. She was drawing her mother over and over and over. Marcus sat down on the floor across from her. He didn't speak. He just watched. After a full minute, Sienna's hand stopped moving. She looked up. Marcus smiled. Not a doctor smile, just a tired, human smile. Then he did something insane. He pulled a small harmonica from his pocket, something he'd carried since he was a kid, and played a single, soft note. Sienna's eyes went wide. Julian's voice crackled through a speaker in the cube. "What the hell are you doing? Sound is the trigger. Stop." But Marcus didn't stop. He played a simple melody. Nothing fancy, just a folk tune his grandmother used to hum. Sienna's hands started to shake. Then, for the first time in 3 months, she opened her mouth. She didn't scream. She hummed. Just one note. Quiet. Fragile. But it was sound. Julian stumbled backward like he'd been shot. Victoria gasped. And Marcus kept playing, tears streaming down his face, because he just witnessed a miracle. Cliffhanger. Will Sienna speak again? What will Julian do to the doctor who broke his rules? Part 2. The broken contract. Marcus was fired before he even left the cube. "Get out!" Julian's voice came through the speaker, shaking with fury. "Get your things. Victoria will escort you out. You will sign an NDA. If you speak about this to anyone, I will destroy you." Marcus stood up slowly, looking down at Sienna. She'd stopped humming. Her face had gone blank again, but her eyes followed the harmonica as he put it back in his pocket. The cube door slid open. Victoria stood there, her expression unreadable. "Dr. Vale," she said quietly. "This way." Marcus stepped out. Julian was across the room, his back turned, hands clenched into fists so tight his knuckles were white. "You don't fire someone for making your daughter smile," Marcus said. "She didn't smile," Julian said, not turning around. "She made a sound. Sounds lead to pain. Pain leads to silence. You've set back months of conditioning." "Conditioning?" Marcus's voice rose. "You're treating her like a lab experiment." Julian spun around. "I'm treating her like something precious and fragile that the world wants to break. You don't understand. You can't understand. She's not like other children. She's..." He stopped, his jaw locked. "She's what?" Marcus pressed. Julian's eyes were wild. "She's all I have left. The silence that followed felt like falling. Victoria cleared her throat. "Dr. Vale, please." "Pay him," Julian said suddenly. "Sir, pay him. Triple what we agreed. Then he leaves." Marcus shook his head. "I don't want your money." "Everyone wants my money," Julian said bitterly. "I want to help your daughter." "You can't." "I can try." Julian laughed, and it was a horrible sound. 12 specialists tried. They all failed. They all said the same thing: "Give it time. She'll heal." Time doesn't heal this kind of wound. It just makes the scar tissue thicker. Marcus reached into his bag. He pulled out the harmonica and set it on the glass coffee table between them. "Keep it," Marcus said. "Play it for her. Every night. One song. That's it." "Music doesn't fix trauma," Julian said.
No.
"But it reminds us we're still alive." Marcus turned to leave. He made it 3 steps before Julian spoke again. "Wait." Marcus stopped. "What if?" Julian's voice cracked. "What if I hire you? Not as a doctor, as something else. Companion. Someone who stays here. Someone who works with her every day. You just fired me."
Imumfiring you.
Marcus turned around. Julian looked smaller now, like the rage had burned out and left only ash. "Why?" Marcus asked. "Because she hummed," Julian whispered. "She hasn't made a sound in 3 months, and you were here for 5 minutes. So either you're a miracle worker, or you're very, very dangerous. Either way, I need to know which." Victoria stepped forward. "Sir, we haven't vetted him. We don't know." "I don't care," Julian said. "Dr. Vale, name your price." Marcus thought about his studio apartment with the broken heater. He thought about the medical board hearing in 2 weeks that would decide if he'd ever practice medicine again. He thought about the bottle of vodka he'd left in his car, half empty. "Room and board," Marcus said. "That's it. I stay here. I work with Sienna. And you don't interfere. This is my house. And she's your daughter. But if you want me to help her, you let me do it my way. No more boxes. No more silence chambers. No more treating her like she's made of glass." Julian's hands clenched. For a moment, Marcus thought he might attack him. Then Julian nodded once. 1 week. You have 1 week to show progress. If she gets worse, you're gone. Deal." They didn't shake hands. They just stared at each other like 2 predators circling the same kill. The guest room Marcus was given was bigger than his apartment. It had a king bed, a marble bathroom, and a view of the city that made him dizzy. Everything was white and silent and perfect. He hated it. At midnight, he couldn't sleep. The silence was oppressive. He got up and wandered the halls in his t-shirt and boxers, carrying the medical bag like a security blanket. He found the kitchen, an enormous space of stainless steel and granite that looked like it had never been used. He opened the fridge. It was stocked with prepackaged meals in sterile containers. No fresh food. Nothing homemade. "Can't sleep." Marcus spun around. Julian was standing in the doorway, also in a t-shirt and sweatpants. Without the armor of his expensive clothes, he looked human, tired, lost. "The quiet's too loud," Marcus said. Julian almost smiled. "That's poetic nonsense." "It's true, though." Marcus closed the fridge. "Your whole building is designed to block sound. But silence has a sound too. It's just heavier." Julian walked to the island and sat on one of the stools. "Her mother loved noise," he said suddenly. "Aria. She was a musician, violinist. She practiced 6 hours a day. I used to complain about it. Now I'd give anything to hear it again." Marcus sat across from him. "How did it happen?" "Drunk driver. Ran a red light. T-boned them at an intersection." Julian's voice was mechanical, like he'd told this story too many times. "Aria died instantly. Sienna was in her car seat, screaming. The first responders said she screamed for 20 minutes straight while they cut her out of the wreckage. Jesus. After that, sound became the enemy. Every loud noise was the crash happening again. So I did what I do best. I built a solution. I engineered silence." Julian looked at his hands. "And I engineered my daughter into a ghost." She's not a ghost, Marcus said. She hummed today. That's not nothing. It's not enough. It's a start. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Julian stood up abruptly. There's something you should know, he said. About me. Okay. I'm not normal. Marcus snorted. No billionaire is. I don't mean that. Julian's jaw tightened. I have a condition. Hyperacusis. It means I hear everything louder than other people. A whisper sounds like shouting. A car alarm sounds like a bomb. For most of my life, the world was agony. Marcus's eyes widened. That's why you built everything, Julian finished. The noise-canceling tech, this building, the silence. It's not just for Sienna. It's for me. I can't function in the normal world. Sound is pain. But you built hearing aids. You help people hear. Julian's smile was bitter. The greatest irony of my life. I give people the gift I can't have. He walked to the window looking out at the city. When Arya was alive, she was the only sound I could tolerate. Her music didn't hurt. It was soft, like it was made for me. And now she's gone, and the world is screaming again. Marcus stood up. He walked over to Julian. Play the harmonica, Marcus said. What? Tonight. Go to Sienna's cube. Play the harmonica. One song. I don't know how. Then just play one note. See what happens. Julian looked at him like he was insane. But then, slowly, he nodded. Marcus watched through the security feed in his room. Julian sat outside the cube at 2 a.m., holding the harmonica like it might explode. He pressed it to his lips and blew. The note was off-key, shaky, terrible. Inside the cube, Sienna sat up in her bed. Julian played another note. Sienna put her hand against the acrylic wall. Julian kept playing. Not a song, just random notes, a broken melody. And then Marcus saw something that made his chest tighten. Sienna pressed her forehead against the wall. She closed her eyes, and she cried. Silent tears rolled down her cheeks. But her mouth opened, and Marcus could see she was trying to make sound, trying to sing along with her father's broken song. Julian saw it too. He dropped the harmonica. He pressed his own hand against the wall, matching Sienna's tiny palm on the other side.
I'm sorry, Julian whispered.
The microphone in the cube picked it up. I'm so sorry, baby. I thought I was protecting you. I thought silence would save you. Sienna's mouth moved. No sound came out. But Marcus, who'd spent years reading lips in loud trauma bays, could see what she said. Daddy, I miss Mommy. Julian collapsed. He didn't cry. He didn't make a sound. He just pressed himself against the cube and shook. And that's when Marcus made a decision that would change everything. He walked out of his room, down the hall, to the cube. He opened the control panel, and he shut down the soundproofing system entirely. Cliffhanger. What will happen when the silence ends? Will Julian forgive Marcus for destroying his carefully built world? Part 3. The world rushes in. The first sound was the ventilation system. It roared to life like a jet engine. Then came the hum of electronics. The distant traffic from 87 floors below. The wind hitting the windows. The building settling. The elevator cables. The fluorescent lights buzzing. Everything Julian had spent millions to silence came crashing back. He screamed. It wasn't a scream of anger. It was a scream of pure agony. He clutched his head, stumbling backward, his hypersensitive ears overloaded by the sudden tsunami of noise. Sienna, inside the cube, covered her ears too. But her eyes were open, wide, aware. Marcus ran to Julian. Breathe. Focus on my voice. Turn it back on. Julian roared. No. You're killing me. I'm saving her. Victoria burst into the room, followed by 3 security guards. Dr. Vale, step away from Mr. Ashford. Get him out. Julian was on his knees now, blood trickling from his nose. His body couldn't handle the sensory input. But Marcus didn't move. He knelt in front of Julian and grabbed his face. Look at me, Marcus said. Julian, look at me. Julian's wild eyes focused on him. The world is loud, Marcus said. And it hurts. And it's unfair. But she needs to hear it. She needs to learn that sound isn't the enemy. Silence is. You don't understand. You're right. I don't. But I know what trauma looks like. I've seen it in emergency rooms. I've seen soldiers come back from war, terrified of fireworks. I've seen abuse survivors flinch at raised voices. And you know what doesn't help? Avoidance. You can't hide from the world. She's 7. And you're teaching her that the world is something to be afraid of. Julian tried to stand. He couldn't. The noise was too much. Marcus made a decision. He pulled out his phone, opened his music app, and played a song. It was violin music. Soft, achingly beautiful. What is that? Julian gasped. Aria's recording. You gave it to the intake nurse. It's in your daughter's medical file. The violin sang through the speakers. It cut through the chaos of the other sounds like light through fog. Julian went still. Inside the cube, Sienna stood up. She walked to the wall. She pressed both hands against it. Her mouth opened, and she sang. It was off-key, shaky, barely a whisper, but it was her mother's melody. Julian's face crumpled. Oh God! Oh God! She remembers. Of course she remembers, Marcus said gently. She's been trying to remember in silence. But memories live in sound. In music. In voices. Victoria was crying. The guards stood frozen. Marcus stood up. He walked to the cube's door. He opened it manually, overriding the electronic lock. The cube door swung open. For the first time in 3 months, there was no barrier between Julian and Sienna. She ran. She launched herself at her father, and Julian caught her, pulling her into his arms. He buried his face in her hair. She was crying. He was crying. The whole world was crying. I miss Mommy, Sienna whispered, her first words in 93 days. I miss her so much. Me too, baby, Julian sobbed. Me too. They stayed like that for a long time. The noise of the building hummed around them. It hurt, but they endured it together. 2 weeks later, Marcus stood in Julian's office. The medical board ruled in your favor, Julian said, sliding a folder across the desk. Your license has been reinstated. Turns out when a billionaire makes a few calls, bureaucracy moves quickly. Marcus stared at the folder. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. You saved my daughter. This is the least I can do. Marcus opened the folder. His license. Official. Legal. Real. He could go back to the ER. Back to his old life. He closed the folder. I want to stay, Marcus said. Julian looked up sharply. What? I want to stay. Here. With Sienna. She's making progress, but she needs consistency. And honestly, Marcus ran a hand through his hair. I need this. I need to remember why I became a doctor. Not to fix people in 10 minutes, but to actually heal them. Julian stood up. He walked around the desk. He stopped in front of Marcus. You're terrible at boundaries, Julian said. I know. You drink too much. Working on it. You broke into my daughter's medical files. Technically, Victoria gave me access. You destroyed $1 million soundproofing system. It was hurting both of you. Julian's expression softened. You're also the first person in a year who's treated me like a human being instead of a bank account. Marcus's breath caught. Stay, Julian said quietly. Not as an employee. As something else. I don't know what yet. But stay. Okay. They stood there, inches apart. The city noise humming through the now normal windows. One condition, Julian said. What? Teach me to play the harmonica. Marcus laughed. It was the first genuine laugh he'd had in months. Deal. Epilogue. 6 months later. The Ashford Tower's 87th floor sounded like a home. Music played from speakers, Aria's recordings. Mixed with new songs Sienna was learning on a child-sized violin. The kitchen smelled like burned pancakes because Julian still couldn't cook. Somewhere in the apartment, Sienna was laughing, chasing the cat that Marcus had insisted they adopt. Marcus stood at the window, coffee in hand, watching the sunrise paint the city gold. Julian walked up behind him, wrapping arms around his waist. She asked if you're her new dad, Julian murmured into Marcus's shoulder. Marcus froze. What did you say? I said we'd talk about it. Together. Marcus turned around. Julian looked different now. Softer. The hard edges worn down by laughter and noise and life. I'm a mess, Marcus said. I'm a recovering alcoholic with a traumatic past and terrible credit. I'm a control freak with a disability and enough emotional baggage to sink a ship. We're a disaster. We're a family, Julian corrected. From somewhere in the apartment, Sienna yelled, Dad! Dr. Marcus! The cat threw up on the couch. They both sighed. I'll get the cleaner, Marcus said. I'll get the cat, Julian replied. They kissed quickly, soft, domestic, real, and then ran toward the chaos. The apartment filled with sound, laughter, music, the mess of living. And for the first time in years, neither of them wanted it any other way. The end.